Hey everybody, it's Eli with Elfbait, and we're back here with the Dungeons & Dragons 30-day challenge. We're on day 19, which is favorite elemental, plant, or construct. Now, I know in the last video I said I was going to cover genies in this one, but when I went back and started doing some checking and some research on genies, I felt that they really deserved an episode of their own. So there's going to be a separate episode in the main feed, on the Monsters playlist. Cross-sectioned with probably the DM's playlist as well, on genies, just because I really felt that they needed focused attention of their own. So I want to focus today, like I had been, on the favorite monsters things. You know me, I can't decide on one thing or the other, and in the interest of making substantial enough video on this, I figured I would cover both a favorite plant and a favorite construct. So constructs, there are a lot of them in D&D, and they're all really good. They all have their own purpose, from whether it's animated suits of armor, clay golems, flesh golems, every kind of other golem. I mean, crap, there was a maggot golem in one game. I think it was back in 2nd edition in one of the Monsters compendiums. There was a golem composed of maggots. That's gross, but hey. Golems, constructs, caryatid columns, animated statues, all sorts of other things that are built for a purpose, or to defend other things, or to guard other things. Sometimes they're just servants. Constructs are a great overall category for D&D. There is really no place in your game that you can't fit a construct in there, whether that's a servant for a merchant, wizard's bodyguard, temple guardian, whatever it is. There's always some place. I mean, they could be the soldiers in one of your fantasy nation's armies. These things can go pretty much anywhere. Now, out of all of the golems in the core rules, I mean, there's so many, but I'm going to try and stick to Monster Manual stuff for the most part, because that's what most people, I can safely say, are going to have access to. So out of the Monster Manual, my favorite construct is probably the Stone Golem. The Stone Golem is by far the most universally usable golem out of all of the golems in D&D. It can be anything from a statue guarding the gates of your city, a temple statue, lost tomb. Any place you can put a statue, you can put a stone golem. But a stone golem doesn't necessarily have to be humanoid in form, nor does it even have to be shaped like like a creature. You could use the same stats for a stone golem for, say, an animated altar, or some piece of masonry that is, has imbued upon it the spirits of the fallen there. I mean, a golem is, by definition in the game, something that is created by infusing some sort of a spirit into an inanimate form. And while that's usually done through ritual, I don't see any reason why, in the interest of good story and good, interesting monster craft, that you couldn't have a stone golem that was spontaneously generated on the site of a great battle. Perhaps there is the remnant of a tower there, where lots and lots of people died. The hate, the hope, the patriotism, whatever spirit was strongest in that place, imbued the remnants of that tower with its energies, and now that tower can animate as a stone golem. Maybe the stones reconfigure themselves into a humanoid form. Maybe it's something vague and shambling, but the stats for the stone golem could still be used. Now, stone golem has like most golems, is an incredibly hard thing to kill. It's got a host of immunities. It's a heavy hitter in melee. It is just beefy. I mean, they are immutable. Their form can't be modified by anything that would affect the material they're made out of. I mean, they're really just hardcore enemies. And the fact that all it takes is stone to really have them manifest in your game, they can be put just about anywhere you're going to have civilization. So stone golems have got to be my pick for favorite construct. Like I said, there are a ton of other ones. Golems come in all shapes and forms, but constructs in general are a huge category. So it's really hard to pick one, but for absolute versatility and utility and simple but effective character, it's got to go to stone golem. So, plant. This is another category that is huge. It is widely varied. You've got everything from vegapygmies to wolf in sheep clothing. You've got hangman's trees. You've got yellow musk creepers. You've got dry-flower fronds. You've got Venus man-traps. You've got all kinds of things in D&D that are plant-formed. Some of those overlap into things like Fae and the like, and it's like everything in D&D. Sometimes you read a category and you're like, why did they make it that way? They probably did so just so it would fit into this list, or when ultimately somebody's got a plus versus blah blah blah, that here's something that affects it, or in some cases it's just what they hang out with. I mean, a blink dog being Fae, kind of weird, but somewhere along the lines, the powers that be decided that the blink dogs were part of the Fae ecology, and that's cool. They really didn't have a position before. Anyways, plants are very similar. Vegapygmies are considered plants, but if I was to pull out the monster manual, and we're going to do this, we're going to open a book on TV, and I was to go to Treant, or Ent, or Trent, or however you want to pronounce them. Let's see, those, and I got to claim ignorance here, they are a huge plant. One could argue that a Treant is as Fae as anything else. Why is a Treant not a Fae? But thematically, overall, they decided that it is a plant. But we're not talking about plants in general. But I was just wanting to show, that plants are a huge category again, and so certainly are kind of hard to pick from. But for me, it's got to be the Shambling Mound. The Shambling Mound is just cool. I don't know if it's too much Swamp Thing and Man Thing when I was a kid, or the fact that it just really has an interesting appearance. There's a great episode of the old D&D cartoon that has a Shambling Mound as the antagonist, and for a portion of it, turns out it's a cursed guy who's been cursed to look like a Shambling Mound. But Shambling Mounds are really cool. I mean, they blend in with the scenery. They've got that engulf attack. They're immune to lightning. In some versions in the past, they've even gotten more powerful from lightning. There was a relative creature of the Shambling Mound called the Umplebi, which I believe was in Monster Manual 2, or could have been, actually, it didn't come out till the not Unearthed Arcana, but the second edition Monstrous Compendiums. But the Umplebi was like a Shambling Mound to the nth power. It carried its own electrical charge. So if you could get an Umplebi and Shambling Mounds together, you'd have this symbiosis of, voltage carrying creature that can now buff the other plant monsters. I don't believe they can do that in the new version. I think they trimmed them back a bit, but Shambling Mounds are still powerhouse monsters that are going to often ambush the party because they're a pile of muck and vegetation. So Shambling Mounds also, because of that, are great to have as some sort of minion monster or guardian monster, whether it's by intent, they were put there by X to protect this place, or just simply by the nature of where they develop. If you've got a lost tomb or a temple that's in a sinking, sucking swamp, and you want to have something there that keeps getting in its way, then by all means, throw in a Shambling Mound. And that Shambling Mound can be in plain sight when the party passes it, and it's going to just come out of nowhere. It's going to blend out of the woodwork, literally. The underbrush is going to suddenly come alive. Now, the Shambling Mound is a good base creature, and this is actually something to mention about the stone golems. It's a good base creature to add other stuff onto. You can actually, because the Shambling Mound is a pile of vegetation and stuff from around, just kind of become animate, I like to combine them with other forms of vegetation. What if you had a shambling mound that was also draped in yellow musk creepers? Or a shambling mound that had a violet fungi growing off of it? Or what if you even had a shambling mound? I made a monster that actually looked like a shambling mound, but it had a shrieker for a head. Combining plants into that shambling mound now makes the shambling mound this horrible nightmare. I mean, imagine a shambling mound that actually had multiple things, like it was a little ecosystem in and of itself. A shambling mound, it's got yellow musk creepers draping over it. It's got violet fungi growing out of its back, and its head is a shrieker. That thing is going to be a nightmare. But it's totally in theme, and it completely fits into the game, and it's an easy mod. You're just basically picking and pulling other powers from other creatures to add onto your shambling mound. And that is going to be something that your players are going to remember. If you're going for the tropics, your shambling mound could have, everything in it from, you could have hornets' nests in your shambling mound. What if your shambling mound was being used as a nest for fire ants? I mean, because it is a living plant, and it is kind of just this conglomerate of muck and vines and other foliage, you could work all sorts of stuff into it. You could put a shambling mound, not necessarily in a swamp area. What about an agricultural shambling mound, which is kind of like composty? Maybe it has a pumpkin for a head. Spontaneously just sprouted out of the muck of some forgotten pasture somewhere. You could do underwater shambling mounds. You could have a shambling mound that comes out of the surface as a conglomerate of seaweed and kelp and maybe bits of coral sticking off of it. So the shambling mound, while its base creature is really good, is actually really good for combining other monsters and other plant types, other environmental hazards into. You could have a shambling mound, for example, that might have elements of a skeleton in it. Maybe it grew up, maybe, one of the last victims it consumed was so full of hate and vitriol that now that shambling mound is carrying essentially like a white, maybe a specter or something bound into it. You could have so much fun with a shambling mound. That shambling mound could be an entire category unto itself. So, favorite monster for plants, that's got to be shambling mound. Favorite construct for its versatility is going to be the stone golem. Stone golem, like I was mentioning with the shambling mound, you start adding glyphs and runes onto that stone golem. You start having that stone golem have magic gems encrusted in it. You have that stone golem start having other spirits imbued in it. Maybe there are holy texts written on it. That stone golem can have some interesting new effects. What if the stone golem is growing in the jungle and is encrusted with yellow musk creepers? What if that stone golem has been sitting in the dank so long that it now has fungus growing on it? So the stone golem, a little dry out in the garage today. I got a temporary heater now that the dragon is dead. And it puts out the driest heat. So anyways, those two monsters, for day 19, favorite elemental construct or plant. Covering plants and constructs here because I want to give genies their due. They're a favorite of mine, and there's a lot more to them than just the 4 that are in the monster manual. Like to usually stick to the monster manual stuff, but I think with the history of genies in Al-Qadim, and then the new stuff that's come out through Kobold, Kobold Press, there is actually a good amount to be said for genies. And so they will be getting their own episode. Anyways, thank you again for tuning in to my long ramble on the 30-day Dungeons & Dragons challenge. Sorry that the episodes are coming a little disjointed now. They've caught up to my schedule, and so I haven't been able to slam them out multiples in a day like I was hoping to. I will be, doing a few more, so you'll be seeing this Avengers playing poker shirt again. But yes, so comment below. Tell me about your favorite construct, your favorite plant monster. Discuss if you like the ideas that I've been throwing out for the modifications of creatures. It's a favorite topic of mine. By all means, ask questions, make comments, argue with me, whatever. Like, share, subscribe, and hey, get out and game.